After
Strong.
2 long weeks, we're back. We're back for lucky number 7.
Hello, everybody. We missed you. I missed you. I missed you terribly. I just realized my microphone was too far from my face. It's closer now. I hope I sound
Sounds
better.
good now.
To the folks at home.
Yeah, he missed you so much. He wants you guys a lot closer. He wants you to really hear him. He wants you in your ears. He wants him in your ears.
Yes, it's been a busy 2 weeks. A lot of things going on. A lot of things in the industry. A lot of things in life. A lot of things in the news.
Yeah.
There's
what have you been up to the last 2 weeks?
Obsessively reading the news about these people in a submersible going down to the Titanic. I've been glued to my phone for 2 days straight following updates.
And it's funny how it's game related because they're using a Logitech controller.
Yes, they are. It is the strangest combination of things. Like this bizarre ramshackle billion-dollar submersible controlled with a Logitech PC game controller.
I feel like really bad at any point, like making light of the situation, because it's truly terrible. It's a pretty terrifying thing, and when you see the size of how small it is, that must be, if they end up dying, that has to be like top 10, 5 most horrible ways to go.
It really,
and there's a couple things, right? Like, one, personally, I never would have gotten in an untested, like, third-party submarine,
unregulated submarine.
Second, once I found out that thing was controlled by a Bluetooth controller, I would have fucking ran. I would have ran.
I would have been like, can you at least get the Xbox wireless dongle, dude? Come on,
dude. Can you at least get a Xbox Connect, like the military?
Get an Elite.
Can you control it with your body? Can you control it with your like, I don't know. Once I saw that logic, dude, my computer can barely maintain a connection to my Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Why would I go 20,000 feet under the sea with one that's way worse?
I saw videos of this thing. They are using like Windows tablet computers. And I can tell you one thing, the Windows Bluetooth stack sucks ass. It's so bad. It will drop everything. I watched another clip. He said, oh, we have a couple of backup controllers just in case. In case of what, sir?
Can you imagine the last thing these people hear before they start thinking is like, Bluetooth disconnected. And just like, and they're like, what? And then it's like, the guy like didn't like put new AA batteries in it.
He forgot to bring like the micro USB cord to charge it.
Yeah. It's I feel awful. I feel really awful about it. Then there's things where like the kid's stepson, the guy's stepson, was at like the Blink-182 concert. Yeah. He's like, it's just, there's so much.
He tweeted at the band
shit,
too, saying like, my stepfather is on a submarine that's missing right now, but I'm
at the show. Backstage?
Like, can I come backstage?
He didn't actually say that, but
yeah, it's really nuts. Like, I feel it's like so many people are making light of it, and like I can't even blame them for that because it is such an absurd situation. But at the same time, like, you know, I feel horrible because like that's a terrible way to go. I mean, they knew what they were signing up for. You know, they paid the money for it, but man,
it's a really terrible way to go. If they end up, apparently they're hearing noises down there now, so they're like trying to find the source. I don't understand the point of the sonar if you can't triangulate. Like, you see me use the word triangulate. Yeah, if you can't triangulate where they are, like what does that serve you then? Like,
yeah,
I don't think anyone's gone down to the Titanic yet. It's like, maybe we should start there.
Send James Cameron back. He's always like jonesing to get back there.
He's probably on his way.
He brought out his own submersible.
He's got the Logitech wired controller though. Dude, it's just like, why would you not just use a wired controller? I don't get it. I don't understand.
It's really insane. It's like the strangest combination of things. And I feel like it's gotten everybody's attention.
The guy who made this, who's like piloting the ship, I would love to see if he's like a dude who has like a deep level understanding of tech, or if he's like some kind of like disillusioned rich guy who like is just like, oh, this is Bluetooth, that's advanced, that's future, that's technology. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. It's
he did say in an interview when he was showing the controller, he said, oh, this is a Logitech controller. It's a third-party one. It's basically the PlayStation controller layout, but it's by Logitech. So I was like, all right, I don't know, he knows a few things. Rest in peace. He's probably dead.
Dude, I don't know. They got like as of right now, I think they've got like 14 hours of air left.
Yeah, it's not good. I hate to say it, but they're probably not going to make it back. It's like deep ocean stuff, man. Like you don't mess with that. Like
I don't even know how you would go about retrieving the ship, even if you found it. Like from my understanding, you can't just like turn upwards and go up. Like the pressure will like destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know, how do you even. I don't even know. I have no idea. What do you do? What does the rescue operation even look like?
Yeah,
once you find it.
It's insane. I just watched like a documentary about the Malaysian flight that went missing almost 10 years ago at this point. And like, people were spending billions of dollars like looking for that thing for years, and they still didn't find any trace of it. It's like people forget like the scale of the ocean is so insanely vast. That's why I don't mess with it, man. Like,
yeah, that's the only reason I don't go deep sea submarining in my spare time. That's the only reason.
The risk,
Yeah, the risk. Yeah, no
risk
other reason. We make so much money off this podcast that we could have like made our own third party Titanic.
I could have gotten a seat on Ocean Gate's submersible, but I've
I don't know if I would have been able to fit it in my schedule between like this and
Final Fantasy 16 and
Diablo 4. and going up to space with Bezos.
Oh, of course.
He keeps asking me to do that, and then Elon keeps asking me to test his. It's like, guys, come on.
We got all these games, we got all these trips to space. It's tough, man. Like,
it is tough.
My schedule's packed.
And again, you're right. Like between that and like Diablo, which I've been smashing through. I know you just started.
Yeah. Do you like that segue?
What segue? Oh, into this into the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Dude, the last 2 weeks have been crazy. Though honestly, Diablo, incredible. Diablo is amazing. I know you took a minute to get started.
Yeah.
But my favorite release of the last 2 weeks. Now this is the actual segue. Was actually not even a game. It was the Final Fantasy 16 demo.
Oh yeah. This is crazy, man. Like, we've seen demos. I feel like they've had, stops and starts over the years. Like, demo discs used to be huge. Like, demos were a big thing for a long time. Then they disappeared. They kind of come back sometimes because, like, people have said like it can be detrimental to sales if your demo sucks. But
yeah,
this is amazing. The fact that they put out this demo for Final Fantasy 16 on the PS5, and like it's just blown up. Like the Twitter was going crazy about it. Everybody who's gotten their hands on it like was really shocked by how solid it is, and like their sales and pre-orders I think have probably flown up like crazy.
It was the best demo I've ever played, like hands down. Like easily I can say confidently this is the best demo I've ever played. It was extremely generous in how much game you played. It was like a 2-hour demo. It was like a 2-hour demo of like the actual game where and your save progress carries over, which I actually wasn't going to do it until someone told me that your save progress carries over, and that because I didn't want to do. I don't like doing the game twice. I think once I like do the game, if I do the game 2 or 3 times before the game's like, or twice and then the game's out, it's like I feel like that hampers the start experience for me when I start a game.
The pacing gets kind of messed up when you're like,
it gets all wonky. So I was super happy to hear that the progress carries over. And they were also just generous in like in the icon, what's it called? The icon trials, where you can do the demo and then you can do the icon trials once you beat the demo. But the icon trials, I thought it was going to be like, oh, they drop you in like a ring full of enemies, like an arena full of enemies, and you get some more abilities. You can use some Garuda abilities, some Titan abilities, blah blah. It's just like they just like drop you like 12 hours into the game, like in a level, and they're like, oh yeah, this is just like farther in the game. Like, here you go, have fun. And I'm like, that's what? Crazy. And it's like another hour. It's like another hour on top of like the 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was such a good demo. The combat felt incredible. It really feels kind of like Final Fantasy meets Game of Thrones. If like everyone in Game of Thrones was praising these like supernatural elementals.
Yeah.
it's super cool, dude. I was super into it. And the point of this article, which something we've actually talked about, is Square Enix was actually they were really concerned about their pre-order sales numbers, which I think they were still good, but they weren't like gangbusters.
Yeah, I'm sure the budget for this is probably crazy.
And supposedly, since they released this one, this demo, the pre-order numbers have like skyrocketed, which is really interesting to see. Dude, 62% of this poll said it's fantastic. I can't wait for the game.
Yeah, they excuse me. They took a poll of, at this point on here with pushsquare.com, 8,000 votes. You know, what do you think of the Final Fantasy 16 demo? And 62%, like you said, it's fantastic and I can't wait. And like 62% of 8,000, you know, that's a pretty good sample size, and that's pretty remarkable. Yeah. And very few are negative. The next best is 10%. It's really good. I like it a lot.
I'm trying to find the tweet too, where there was a pre-order sales tracking website, and it was showing
was like a chart.
It was a chart, and once the demo hit, the chart just like just
flew up,
skyrockets. Yeah. I don't know the exact number of sales, but this demo is incredible. If anyone hasn't checked it out, I've talked to a couple people who like won't play the demo just because they're like, I'm not a Final Fantasy person, but I would say like, I think this game is like very different than anything in the series.
Yeah.
Very different. I played Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Apparently that combat's close to like 15. This combat, from what I've like learned, is pretty much like Dragon's Dogma or Devil May Cry 5, which I think has the same combat director who also did the combat for this. And, you know, of course he's going to say this now, right? Because the game's coming out, but he said that this is like his best work. Like he thinks this is his masterpiece of combat design. Yeah. And I was super impressed. Did you play the demo? I know you played some of it. Did you finish it?
I played some of it. I didn't. I played like the first part where it's kind of like, you know, big set piece war scene, and then it kind of went to like, you know, a slower pace, like a bit more intimate. And there I was like, all right, I'll wait for it to come out. Yeah. Cause I know I'm probably going to want to, whatever happens there, I'm sure I'm just going to want to go right into what happens after. So
it's so good. And even in that opening scene, and this is for anyone who didn't play the game yet, because we'll release this episode tomorrow on the launch day of the game, or didn't play the demo, just some like light spoilers. It's just so interesting to see like chocobos in like war armor and being ridden into war, and
it's like violent. There's like legitimately dark violent content. It's crazy.
There's a dude like sliding down the mountain and like a boulder crushes him, and you just see like he gets squished between the ground and the boulder, and his blood just comes flying out like an ocean of blood.
He turns into just powder basically. It's crazy.
It's crazy to see like all of these elements of Final Fantasy that we love being twisted into this like very dark, very tortured realm.
Yeah. Like visually, it's really remarkable. I think, at least just that little bit that I played, because, you know, we mentioned in our last episode, like the fact that we've gotten to a point with graphics on consoles, especially because, you know, PC can always do crazy things, but with a home console, we have real-time graphics that now match, you know, the levels of pre-rendered CGI cinematics that we had, you know, 10, 20 years ago. It's really crazy. Like, you know, natively rendering these cutscenes in real time, this gameplay, like it looks really astounding.
I think you pointed out like how this game kind of looks like a Final Fantasy like 12 or 13 fully like pre-rendered CGI cutscene, or like one of the Final Fantasy CGI movies.
Yeah, like
and
Spirits Within or something.
It almost looks like we're just playing that at every moment now. It's insane. And that's the thing that I appreciate so much from the Final Fantasy entries. It feels like ever since 7, and the only reason why I don't count 1 to 6 is because I'm just a little less familiar of like steps of graphical fidelity between that time period. But for me, ever since 7, it's just every entry of Final Fantasy seems to be the next standard for graphical fidelity in games.
They do. They've really, that's a good point. They have actually really pushed technical design forward in a lot of ways. It's crazy. Like someone on Twitter put a screenshot of like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X next to each other, and they were like, these games came out like 3 or 4 years apart or something like that.
Yeah, and it's insane.
It's
go
really
from like Roblox to like
yeah, literally Roblox characters to like, they're dated now, but like very detailed character models, like, really nice environments, mixing the pre-rendered with, the live rendered. Then Final Fantasy 12, I remember I've started that game like 3 or 4 times, but never played too much of it. But I remember reading an article like when it first came out, about like, like all these new kinds of rendering things they're doing on the PS2, like that are really standard now, but they were really pushing the boundaries forward with it at the time. And it's cool because like with these games, you have they're giant, they're big worlds, big stories. There's so much to explore and do. So when you're in a really pleasant and ambitious graphical space, like it's cool. It's cool to explore that. So I can't wait to 100%. See. I'm interested because the review embargo just broke today, and it's interesting. Yeah. A lot of people were saying that the action is so good, like the action and combat and whatnot, that like some of the RPG aspects kind of take a backseat or aren't as deep, which is interesting. Yeah. I feel like that might be a bit divisive among fans, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I will comment on that in a second, but I just wanted to just looping back to what we're saying. This is a tweet that was comparing. The first shot is a pre-rendered CGI featured in Final Fantasy 13. The next 2 shots are real-time cutscenes taken from the Final Fantasy 16 demo. Lastly, a still from Spirits Within, an actual CG movie from 2001. How far we've come. And so this is Final Fantasy 13 pre-rendered. This is an actual like in-game shot, not pre-rendered. These 2 frames here. It's insane.
Yeah.
And they basically look better, if not better, if not like on par.
The same, if not better. Yeah.
Full movies, full pre-rendered CGI. Like it's absolutely insane.
The texture detail, the polygon count, like it really is insane. And that's it's weird because it's not exactly a PlayStation exclusive because it is coming to PC later on, but like it effectively is kind of a PS5 console exclusive, and it's remarkable to see. That's the upside and the downside of exclusives is when people are building something for like one specific piece of hardware, you really can do this kind of thing. You can push it forward. You can say this is like the maximum limit of what this metal can do, and we're gonna push it and we're gonna see. So
it's cool 100%. And going back to what you were saying about the wait, what were you just saying before this?
Oh, the action combat, the RPG elements.
Oh yes, the RPG elements. I think that's kind of. I haven't read too much of the reviews yet. Yeah, I just saw a few things, and it seems like the major points of criticism I'm seeing on the game are that it what you kind of spoke on, that like the RPG elements of the game kind of take a back seat, and I do wonder because it has an 88 on Metacritic right now, which is amazing. I wonder if it's not a 95 or a 98 because it's not a classic Final Fantasy RPG. I'm very interested to see. I have a feeling I think that it is a 9.8. Yeah. I think I think I'm going to think very highly of the game. I really like the tone of the story. I want to see more of where that goes. We'll see. But I have a feeling I am not going to resonate with that feedback of like, or that criticisms of some of these systems don't hit in the same way, because I think people, if the lens you're looking at it is this doesn't feel the same as old Final Fantasies, then you're gonna have that criticism. But Yoshi P and the whole development team have been very open and honest about like this is a different thing.
New. We're going.
This is a different thing.
Yeah, I wonder where I'll fall on that, because like I'm a huge RPG nut. I love RPGs. The crunchier, the better. Give me all those stats, all that armor and stuff.
Super Mario RPG.
Super Mario RPG, baby, it's coming. We're gonna talk a lot about that. But I also love action games. I love action. I like combat. I like really spicy, fun, fluid combat. So I'm curious to see overall where I'm going to fall on it as well. Cause like, I'm sure there will be times when I'm like, oh man, like I wish this system was a little bit deeper, or like, I wish, there was this and that to some aspect of the structure of the game that would be a bit more like the classic Final Fantasy stuff. But if the story is so powerful and the flow, the pacing of the combat from exploration to encounter to cutscene is really solid, then hey man, I'm gonna love it. So I really can't wait to see kind of how I fall on it.
I think for me, a lot of it's going to determine around how well the world is written out between the like story. Between like the big like what you're saying, like between the big story elements, like how well the world is written out.
Because like
I think sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, you can make amazing cutscenes and tell an amazing story, but if
there's
like
so much stuff in between that for a 200 hour, I think it's gonna be like a 200-hour game.
Yeah, and if that stuff is like not really hitting home, then you're like, well, it's got a great story, but like
you're just gonna skip all that and just focus in. But that's something I think Tears of the Kingdom did so well, was they actually wrote out the world very well between the big story beats, which is why personally I would do one main area of the game, one main chunk of the game, and then 15 to 20 hours of exploring before I even thought about doing the next big chunk. I hope that's the same way. I hope it's the same way. If the side quest and the world is written out very well, then I think this is going to be a very high ranked game for me.
I'm so curious to see what the game of the year discussions are like. It always feels funny to talk about that, way ahead of time, but like, it's Legend of Zelda versus Final Fantasy. It's like, 1998 all over again. It's great.
I know. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
It's going to really be wild. But like next episode, hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about. I'm very excited. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Other than the Microsoft side, Microsoft is raising Xbox Series X and Game Pass prices.
This is interesting to come off of the back of what I thought was a pretty impressive showcase from them about upcoming games, partnerships, all this stuff with Starfield. I almost said Stargate. That's
and they saw a big console spike of sales after that. I think it might have been regionally in France. I only saw like one quick tweet about it. I would like to actually look up more of it, but after their showcase, which I agree, I thought they had a really, really strong showcase. Which, and I personally don't even think I really felt how much of the industry was missing without them having an annual strong showing, because it kind of feels like the last 3 or 4 years it's just been like them reiterating things or announcing things that like I personally wasn't super excited about, or kind of felt like smaller projects. Like I don't know, I always kind of felt like Redfall was a smaller side game. Like I never from what every time I saw it I was never like, oh wow, that looks awesome, I can't wait for that.
It's funny hearing that name, because I feel like it just dropped off the face of the planet.
Yeah, it did. But that was like such a crux of their showcases for like 3 years.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And now it's, I don't know, it just felt like they had more things of better quality than that to show.
I think it's, the rate of development being so slow, projects being so big, like we're kind of, they didn't have a ton of gameplay, quote unquote, for the things that they were showing, but like, big projects are getting closer to coming out. So it's interesting that they followed up, some very positive buzz with a price increase in most regions for the consoles and for the Game Pass subscriptions, which is interesting. I mean, financials are obviously not always handled by the same people who do the content, but it is interesting. I wonder if that's like one hand not knowing what the other's doing, or if this is
to note. I think this is in foreign markets, outside of the US. So the price of the console will rise in August in most countries excluding the US. So we have Japan, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia, while Game Pass prices will increase in July in most markets excluding Norway, Chile, Denmark, Switzerland, and Saudi Arabia. So I guess the US actually is getting a Game Pass.
We're getting the Game Pass bump, but we're dodging the console increase, which is interesting because like from what I've read so much online recently, like developing markets, other countries often are very disadvantaged when it comes to like the cost of gaming hardware and software. And it's interesting that they're like, we're actually increasing the price like everywhere except like the US and Japan and like Brazil, like a couple of countries that kind of like have existing markets for it already.
I wonder if it's like a population density thing, right? Or because I wonder if like enough people are just purchasing them in this market where it doesn't make sense to raise the price because they might be selling enough to actually accommodate for what would necessitate a price increase.
Yeah.
They're doing this in other markets because of, you know, smaller population density, less people purchasing consoles just, you know, in mass versus like the US. And maybe they see it as we need to raise prices in these markets just to keep up with our projections. It could be something more along those lines. That could also be complete trash. I have really, it's a total guess.
I do wonder because, like, you know, again, from what I've read online, like especially I know a lot of parts of like Central and South America, like there's, you know, big gaming communities down there that really struggle with affording a lot of this stuff when there isn't good regional pricing, especially when it comes to software. It stinks, you know, for people who love playing this stuff and want to get their hands on new consoles and new games to basically be paying, you know, when their currency, for instance, might, you know, not go nearly as far as the US dollar, and then it's priced the same as the US dollar. It's just, you know, it kind of becomes like a class thing almost, where people just can't afford to play games.
Yeah, 100%. And the one thing to note too is that, and I know people are going to have a field day with this, is that the increase is actually coming off of Sony's increase last year, which was last August. So they raised the price by 12.5%. And I think pretty much the similar regions. But it looks like Microsoft is essentially price matching PlayStation in those regions, specifically the UK, Europe, Canada, and Australia.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's increases in, like, you know, other kind of like, you know, big Western countries except the US.
Yeah, those are pretty big countries.
Kind of curious. I wonder why there wasn't an increase in the US. Like you said, it could be that there's just, you know, we're sort of the home base for the Xbox and they're selling enough to where it's like, you know, we don't need to kind of like cut those margins as close. But
yeah. One thing we're not really going to dive into too deeply, but pretty big news also is that the FTC actually filed an injunction on Xbox to block the merger here in the US, at least temporarily, until they can, I believe, like set a court date for it. I have to double check, but it is a pretty big move here. You know, the CMA also obviously denied the merger, and I believe the committee in New Zealand now also expressed concerns over the cloud industry. So
that was interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll see. I
really don't know anymore, man. Like, I honestly have no clue.
Yeah.
I feel like we hear something different every day. And, like, you know, someone has a strong opinion that it's like 100% going to go through regardless. And someone else says like, oh, it's dead in the water. It's like, you know, I'm not enough of a MBA.
A lot of the arguments is that I hear, it's just interesting that we're talking about this price increase in the console and how Sony did it first. And I think from talking to people like streaming outside of the podcast, just people's opinions in general, a lot of people love to throw around the argument of, well, Sony did it first, which they reference the $70 game prices. They reference the console increase price. Well, like now the Xbox is matching, they will definitely reference the console increase in price.
Yeah.
And they say like, well, that is pure. That is purely, you know, screwing over the consumer. But I still think raising a game to $10 in price. And I'm not someone who necessarily thinks that price is always justified, but I do think raising the price by $10 for games that now have like a 5-year lead time in development,
hundreds of millions of dollars,
and you see something like Final Fantasy 16, that's probably worth $70, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think things like that are nearly as scary or potentially harmful to the consumer as I think something like consolidating so much of the industry into one place could be. You can look at like movies right now, even, right? Like Disney. Look at the quality of Disney movies right now, man. Like it's so bad. And I feel like that you can line that up pretty closely with the Fox acquisition, you know? Then after that they had about like 40% of the box office and like 30% of media outside of the box office. I think that relates to like television. But look at like Marvel Disney Plus shows so bad. Marvel movies, bad. Live action, most of their live action things, like the live action remakes, bad. Like, I don't know. It's just you look at all these things, and I think the governments really regret the AT&T merger with Time Warner.
Yeah.
So I think these agencies are just going really hard on big tech now, as they should, and I think video games fall under that. This is a massive deal, and I think the potential like consumer harms that could come out of it are way greater than us funding developers for $10 more, and getting more Final Fantasy 16s.
Yeah, more Tears of the Kingdoms, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I do worry about game prices in general. Like the $70 price only really scares me because I think the average American, right? Like that's a lot of money. Probably like the average person across the globe. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, in other markets, especially too, like when $70 USD versus $70 in like an Argentinian currency or a African currency or something like that. It's like that's quite literally unaffordable for so many people.
And I just wonder if video games will get to a point where like they're no longer like feasible in terms of like price and creation, like you know what I mean, like where the ROI will no longer be conceivable for the consumer and for the developer, right? Like return on are we going to see $110 games? You know what I mean?
We're going to see a rise of even more free to play stuff, because it gets in the hands of people who can't afford the entry price, but then they slowly milk the money.
I know.
They milk it slowly.
I know.
Surely.
We'll see what happens. I mean, that's a long process. That's like 20, 30, 40 years worth of developments, but I will have to see what happens with this merger. And
20 years worth of podcast episodes. Let's go.
Hell yeah, let's go.
And we'll be here for the whole ride.
Let's look at let's actually look at some of the showcase since we missed last week. A lot of good stuff. What are some of the highlights that you had?
I really enjoyed this. I thought like the flow of it was very snappy, kind of like right to business. Didn't feel like I was necessarily being like, you can always tell as gamers, like when people are blowing smoke up your ass. It's just like with, like cringy tone or weird trailers that don't really like get down to business. But this was like all really solid stuff. Fable. I'm a big fan of Fable. I loved Fable 1 and Fable 2 back in the day. I've been waiting for more from this. And yes, it wasn't.
But dude, the female lead in the trailer is not like a bodacious babe in a bikini, bro.
Don't get me started on this,
dude. Why is Fable woke?
Unhinged people who have literally never seen a human woman or person in their lives judging and commenting on the appearance of this objectively attractive character. It's like, what are you doing? These people are actually insane. But regardless,
I can't wait till they fix her on Twitter. Has anyone fixed her on Twitter?
Yes,
yet?
They have. Someone literally said, "I fixed Fable," and they did the thing. They did the hire fans shit from
hire fans. At Fable, at Mr. Fable, hire fans.
They did it. They yassified her. They put a filter on her. It's ridiculous.
Oh my god! They put a pound of makeup on a woman existing in the 1400s.
Yeah, in like a medieval fantasy world. But the trailer they showed, while not like active gameplay, was officially like recorded on Xbox Series X hardware. And I think it looks really
that's interesting.
Yes, they came out and said that, and they were very proud of that. They're using the Forza engine technology, which I think is really cool. They can do some really high quality photorealistic stuff there. I thought the humor was very funny. I chuckled a lot. I think it's cute, it's charming. I like the angle they're taking with like, I like the taking twist. The piss out of fantasy stuff.
I like the twist that the narrator is actually a giant she fights.
Richard Ayoade.
I thought hilarious. That was great.
So I'm digging. I'm picking up what they're putting down on Fable. I want to see some, obviously like real gameplay and learn more about what the structure is. But that's a big win for me. What was the South of Midnight? Was that the
dude?
Which was that again?
So this was another game where they didn't really show gameplay, but I clicked the wrong thing. But it just has a really interesting.
Yes, the tone and the aesthetic of this is really cool. Very cool, kind of like Cajun, bayou, Lovecraft country kind of vibe. And I think that's so cool. I love seeing stories like this being told with characters that, look like this. I think is really neat.
It almost looks like a, not Tim Burton, the guy who does all the art direction for like Coraline and James and the Giant Peach. I forget his name. But it almost looks like that. And I'm just so intrigued. Like, it looks so cool, so unique.
Oh, the spooky dude with the guitar. Oh man, so cool. I get goosebumps from that.
Kind of like a Louisiana bayou magic story. It looks super interesting. I'm really excited to see more of this.
I want to see more of that for sure. I can imagine that. For some reason in my head, I pictured that being like a really interesting side-scrolling kind of thing. I don't know why that's kind of what I pictured, but we'll see. I wonder.
I don't fully know like what it's going to be yet, but whatever it is, I really hope that they just maintain this art style.
Yeah, because aesthetics go a long way, man.
If they, for sure. If they don't, I'll be a lot less interested in the game. But I'm hopeful. I'm gonna have my eye on this. I'm very excited for this.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got? Oh, Star Wars Outlaws. Do you watch this?
I didn't watch the Ubisoft gameplay stuff that they showed because, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to get interested in Star Wars stuff these days. Yeah.
It looks interesting. My one concern with the Ubisoft gameplay, was that I'll play some of the trailer here while we're talking. My one concern with the Ubisoft gameplay is basically that it looked solid. It looked solid. The one thing that I was concerned about was that, when you're looking at a gameplay demo and in a showcase, and it just looks a little too pristine or a little too stiff. The person playing, it's a little rigid.
Oh yeah, like the classic presentation thing.
I'm a little concerned that it was a very sliced out piece of the game that was then optimized on and made specifically for a presentational demo.
Yeah.
As opposed to like they were just playing the game.
Yeah.
Which like I feel like there's a history of that happening, and I think it's something that developers kind of started backing away from, because you get a lot of like, remember we used to get a lot of like E3 2017 on the left and release game on the right.
Yeah, that did happen a lot, where you would see like
a lot, dude.
You can easily paint it as like a downgrade or a lie or a misdirection, and it's like I think companies are really trying to avoid that now because the internet is ever present, and there are more and more eyeballs on these things.
Yeah, 100%. So so we'll see. It looks cool though. It looks like a pretty like true tried and true open world Star Wars game, which is a really interesting concept. Something that I wish they did a while ago. Yeah, I think open world's a little tiring now. That's Ubisoft open world specifically is tiring. Like they are like the reason of the open world fatigue. So I'm a little bummed that they're the ones developing this. But there were some really cool things in here that made me excited. Like they show her like leave the town, hop on a like a not like a pod racer. What are the little like
the speeder bikes or
whatever? Speeder bikes? Yeah, she hops on the speeder bike. She's zooming around, cool. And then they show her like get in the town. Like she just gets in her spaceship, and it just like takes off, and it's like real time, planet to space combat.
That's always
like
impressive.
She gets into space, and it's just like all of a sudden you're playing like Rogue Squadron.
Nice.
And like that was really, and then like while you're doing the space combat, you can like initiate your hyperdrive, and if you're like in movement, the hyperdrive has to like pause, so you have to like like shoot down a ship and like pause, let it build up. Someone shoots a missile at you, like do like a barrel roll, but then the hyperdrive pauses. Then like once you dodge that, it's like beep, good, and you just hyperspace take off.
That's cool.
And it was like there were some really cool things like that where it might be a little bit of the IP carrying it, but it's still interesting enough as to where I'm like, oh, I want to play that.
Yeah, I guess it's the kind of thing where, there's so many cool things in Star Wars that are just cool, things that we're familiar with that like we've never seen really have that full like next gen, current gen kind of like treatment. So I guess seeing that done on like modern systems is potentially very, very cool. I would love
it'll be interesting to see how it compares to something like Jedi Survivor, where Jedi Survivor does something like Ragnarok, where it's just like cuts down that open world concept into like that open area concept, which I'm becoming very fond of.
Yeah, that's generally where I lean these days too.
Just get that nice, tight, linear experience, and then like big areas where you can just explore. Maybe one area is like kind of a hub area where that one's like a little bit bigger, but like you can really hone it in whenever you want and just go have fun on the story, go A to B to C, and then find some stuff, find some secrets. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. You should watch the gameplay. It is interesting.
Yeah. I wanna take a look at
it. 33 Immortals. Did you look at this?
Yeah. This one looks interesting. It's an interesting choice of name too. I feel like that's very memorable.
I'm trying to remember which one this was. Oh, this is like a top down.
Yeah. It's kind of like has a bit of that Hades like Supergiant.
It's a roguelite.
I don't think 33
player co-op. What the hell?
This one's looking interesting. I mean,
me and 33 of the homies kicking back.
Me and 32 of my best friends. 32 of my closest friends.
Face the wrath of God.
This is one of those things that like is so cool in concept, but we're gonna see how it actually turns out, because like, you know, anything that requires that many people doing anything at once is always tricky.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and it's like, 128 player, you know, Battlefield servers, and it's like maybe that's like too big for its own good. I wonder.
Persona 3 Reloaded, not my thing personally. I'm not like, I did play a little Persona 5, but Persona 3 Reloaded is not something I'm personally jazzed about. I'm happy for all the Atlas heads.
Yeah, that is huge for people who are into Persona.
Huge for the Persona perverts.
Yeah.
The Persona freaks.
That is a big deal. And it's very funny that like they kept accidentally leaking, like dropping trailers early and stuff. Like the social media, whoever was working social media at Atlas probably got fired. But then I think they did it again a few days later. Yeah, they kept accidentally uploading things like a day early. It's like, man, come on.
Guys, get it together.
Avowed. This is actually the one that I'm most excited about personally, because I love
this again.
It's like first person RPG fantasy kind of thing. It's by Obsidian, who I think has a great pedigree when it comes to RPG stuff. They did like Fallout New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity, lots of really good, lots of different styles. They also did the South Park RPGs, which are really good.
Oh, the Stick of Truth and the Fractured But Whole.
Yes,
dude, the Stick of Truth, amazing, like legitimately amazing.
Yeah, actually phenomenal game.
Fractured But Whole is like, I was very good still, but I never finished it. I don't know if that was a me thing or the game thing, but so I can't speak to them like if it was how good it actually was in the end. But Stick of Truth was a banger. It was such a good game.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Avowed, because like this is just so up my alley. Obsidian, like I said, has a great track record with, you know, solid writing, solid not always necessarily sticking the landing with like 10 out of 10s, but like always hitting the notes of RPG stuff. And this takes place in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity, which was a big isometric RPG they came out with a few years ago.
Cool.
And it's kind of like they said it's like Skyrim, but more streamlined, you know, a bit more like honed focus on, you know, combat, story, smaller environments versus like the giant open world kind of thing, which to me is huge, because I really like seeing first person games that experiment with different combat styles beyond just, you know, having a gun in your hand.
I have a little bit of fatigue on like the first person magic thing right now. Like just like the BioShock clones, the like Atomic Heart, you know what I mean?
Forgot about that.
Or like Dishonored clones, you know what I mean? Or the ones that are like caught in between.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's really coming from. Honestly,
yeah, I feel like we haven't gotten too many of them.
I feel like Atomic Heart did it to me and I didn't even play
it. Just seeing it and hearing it, being forced to read about that game.
Yeah, dude, it was just, I don't know. I this doesn't speak to me personally, but it doesn't look bad. It looks good. Well, I would love to hear how it is.
I dig the colors too. I always like seeing things that kind of experiment with, you know, bright colors, different styles,
And
kind
it's
of like
on Game
geometric
Pass.
things, and it's on Game Pass.
Yeah,
So,
me and Welsh bought like 5 years of Game
oh
Pass
my
up
God,
front.
I
So
have it until like October 2024. I never use it. I never use it. But hey, we got in
well,
before the price increase too.
the
So
price increase, and honestly, hopefully this showcase might have saved my Game Pass subscription. We'll see.
oh shit! Wow.
The Sea of Thieves Monkey Island. I haven't actually. I don't play Sea of Thieves. I never really have. I think I know some people who love it, but the Monkey Island thing was really interesting to me because I saw that the creator of Monkey Island, like they totally did this without him knowing or his permission, which I think is
really
super fucked up. Yeah, it's
ooh interesting.
he said I don't have any like the info on me. I just saw that. I'm sure there's articles out there, but he had like no idea they were doing this, and
Wow.
it makes me feel very bad. And I wonder if I wonder if they even just like let him do his like finale game, right? Like he did like a final game
like kind of a reboot
last
sort
year
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if they even just let him do that so they could like reboot the IP in other ways.
Yeah, and just market it and have it for other crossovers and stuff.
So I don't know. Can we just let people live their passions, please? But what else we got? Microsoft Flight Sim. This looks amazing. Every time they release one of these, I'm just like, brother, I'm about to get a full setup and learn how to fly.
Get like the full setup with the
VR helmet,
joystick,
and just learn how to fly so that when a plane's going down, they can go, does anyone know how to fly a plane? I can go.
You can be the hero. Yeah.
We'll see. It always makes me like honestly legitimately want to learn how to fly.
I know, me too. Like I've tried to get into flight sim so many times.
It's probably so hard to do it. Legitimately, it's probably so hard.
Yeah, like it's an objectively incredible piece of software. But it's one of those things that like, you know, it's not for everybody. It's not like a game per se. It's like you're literally just flying a plane, and it's like you have control over every aspect of that. So I'm like, oh man, I'm really gonna get into it. And then you know, I'm like in a Cessna flying around like, you know, New York City, and I'm like, okay, well, that's neat.
I'm sure. Well, right, when you're on the controller, it's probably loses its charm immediately. I think if you had a full setup with a stick and like the cockpit setup and everything, it's probably like sick as hell,
mind blowing.
But you probably have to spend so much time learning how to do it properly. But they are doing the Dune expansion with one of those little
that is funny. The ornithopters or whatever they're called.
Yeah. This is cool. They did the warthog, or not the warthog, the pelican last year from Halo too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's fun. See, this is cute. I like seeing Microsoft.
Yeah, this stuff is cool. This is cool. I wonder if like when you fly the Pelican or like this thing, if it just kind of operates off of like basic flying controls, or if they take a stab at like
actually trying to make it realistic.
Unique controls. Yeah,
I wonder.
That'd be interesting. What else we got? Oh, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
I still have to play the first one. I started it a while back and I really dug it, but I just put it down for various reasons.
I have like no idea what this game really plays like. They almost strike me as like visual novels. I don't know if that's like correct or not. Well, like visual novels with like bits of action. I don't really know what they are.
The presentation so hard. Like everything about Hellblade 2 has been like, look at how good it looks. Yeah. Look at the graphics. Look at this, which is not inherently bad, but
I think this is going to have to be 30 FPS. I don't think.
Yeah,
this 100%. Looks so much like a movie that I can't see them pushing 60 on this.
I think this is going to be another current gen game that kind of brings us back down to 30, to say the least. Maybe a performance mode, but I don't know. That seems like something they might patch in later, if that.
It just looks so graphically intense. The fidelity is so high.
Yeah,
I cannot see them doing 60 on this. Especially if this is like it plays anything remotely close to it. So I
mean, that's the thing is, you know, like it's a whole nother debate to have about 30 versus 60. But like at the end of the day, for developers, especially first party ones, like, you know, graphics sell consoles to your average consumer. So it's like using that horsepower, locking it at 30 and like pushing this as far as they physically can. Like that's going to be, you know, more impressive to your average person.
I Phil's riding this one hard too. He's like banking on this one for the PR speak.
Yeah. But it looks cool. So I dig the aesthetic, the whole kind of like, you know, Norse Celtic mythology sort of thing. It's neat.
What else is hyping you up in here?
Like a Dragon, I want to get into that franchise. I've played the Yakuza 0, which I really enjoyed. I love like the weird humor and the tone. I feel like I need to just play, the first Like a Dragon that they released, was that, like 2 or 3 years ago? Something like that. Just kind of where they did a bit of like a hard or like a soft reboot. Because like these games are fun. They're just like wacky and goofy and interesting. There's really nothing else quite like. I mean, look at the trailer. It's this guy waking up naked on a beach in like Hollywood.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, so they're not even in Japan anymore?
I think they're going to America for this one, which I think is really wacky. This is going to be very wacky, or at least for a part of the game. That looks fun. That's probably going to be multi-platform. I don't think that's an exclusive, but it's neat that they got to present it here. There was a lot of other neat stuff. I guess I was like, obviously the big show stealer was Starfield, which had its own kind of presentation after, which is
Starfield Direct.
Yeah, the Starfield Direct. And everything else was just kind of like touching on, lots of really cool things, but
there's a lot in here.
Yeah, Starfield is that's the big one, man.
This is a big one. Yeah,
I'm excited for it. I feel really good about it. This. Actually, I will say, like, I am a fan of Bethesda games. I'm not like the world's biggest fan. Like, they obviously are not perfect. They release very buggy games. They often overpromise. But like, for me personally, with games like Fallout, Skyrim, or Fallout Elder Scrolls, excuse me, they do things that no one else really does.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think they, even for all their faults, I think they achieve their ambitions very well.
These are, they release these big, it's hard to even like say what it is. They're like a genre of their own almost, where it's like truly big worlds that you can get lost in. Lots of like, quests, places to explore, characters to meet, things like that. And I was concerned about this because it had been in development for so long. And obviously new IPs are always a risk. Basically they haven't put out anything new since like, Fallout 4. I don't really count Fallout 76 because that's its own kind of live service thing.
People are liking that now too.
Yeah, I think they've improved that a lot over time. But to be honest, this presentation really assuaged a lot of my doubts that I had, because like this was such a confident presentation. Every single person, obviously, marketing spin, blah blah blah, but I don't think they would have put 40 minutes of stuff out if they didn't feel like they were showing good stuff.
One thing that got me really excited, actually, which is like probably dumb, but I'm such a sucker for this level of like kind of immersion, is how you can control the power on the ship, like the energy cells, so you can can redirect your power to different places of the ship as you're like flying or engaging in like combat and stuff. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it just looks so insanely ambitious, and it's funny because like some of the
you can
things
divert like power from your thrusters to your like guns or your shields. Like it looks so cool.
The funny thing is stuff like that appeals to some people. I think this is going to be one of those games that like will be a big mainstream success because it has something that appeals to everybody. Which is kind of what they've always done. Like it might not be like the deepest. It's like the classic, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle kind of thing. So some people watch this and are like, oh man, like the ship customization, like all this stuff, that's incredible. Yeah. Whereas like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. But
Kingdom Hearts did it first. Gummy ships, Lego.
Todd Howard was inspired deeply by Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts gummy ships.
Whereas for me, like the stuff the deep dive that they went into on like the RPG elements, the environments, like the kind of, character building, that kind of thing really appeals to me. So the fact that it has that classic Bethesda DNA, in addition to like lots of other, insanely ambitious systems, I think it's going to be flawed. It's going to be janky, but it looks like it's going to be pretty incredible regardless. And this scene here, actually, which is funny, like for people who played Elder Scrolls Oblivion, there's a famous character, the Adoring Fan, who is just like...
Does he look like that?
Yeah, he looks like that. And
that's hilarious.
This made me very happy. Like, it's obviously, they're appealing to their, it's fan service.
Inside joke, yeah.
But yeah, like the fact that they're still doing something like that in this giant presentation, saying like, yeah, for the people who played Oblivion and like, you remember this guy, this obnoxious character, all the old videos on YouTube of people like, knocking him off cliffs and stuff like that. the fact that they had like a dedicated like 45 seconds part of the presentation just to this character coming back.
Yeah. So
to me, that's very fun.
For me, like I'm not a big Bethesda person. Like I did not like Skyrim very much. I have not enjoyed like any Fallout personally. Mm-hmm. A lot of it for me has to do with like the pacing. I think for Fallout, I very specifically remember like I was just like walking into some giant like Walmart like store, and I like completely ran out of like supplies, like healing and like whatever. Like it might have even been like ammo. Like I literally don't think I had anything, and I was like super far from the base, and I was just like, okay, now what? And I just stopped. I literally just stopped playing, and that was it. And it's like it has to do with like the pacing. At least at the time, I was younger. Like the pacing of the game felt very slow and methodical to me, and I just was not interested in that. I was not interested in that in Skyrim as well. Combined with like the scale of it, like the games have such big scale that like combined with like a very methodical pacing that I just like the combination didn't work for me. But I think with this, like it being in space is a much higher chance of me like I could see it like breaking the mold for me from Bethesda.
That's I think this has been in development for like I think like 7 years or something like this at this point, maybe 8. And obviously like I really think they are trying to appeal to everybody as best they can, which is going to be really interesting to see how it turns out, because like I said, it looks like there is that aspect of like, the slower paced, exploring, kind of piecing thing, environmental storytelling, which is nice for, people like me who dig that. But this also looks like it has the fastest and most interesting combat, like moment to moment kind of stuff, which would appeal more maybe to someone like you who didn't really dig the kind of like look around and, pick up supplies and stuff like that. So I'm curious how much you will be able to actually kind of tailor your experience the way that you want. Can you take it slow and steady and spend, 20 hours talking to people in a city, or, just go base to base, blast through the story, upgrade your guns, fly around in 0G, blowing people up. Like
the what's it called? Like the resource collector, like the laser railgun from that looked very similar to No Man's Sky. Resource collection. That made my stomach churn. Like I legit, I was like, oh, like I did not have a good time with No Man's Sky either. Like I actually no, I didn't not have a bad time, but the entire time I played probably like 12 hours ish. The entire time I was just kept waiting for the game to like start.
Yep.
Like I kept thinking like, oh, if I get past this, then I'll be like in the game. Like then I can do all these things that everyone says is like so freeing and blah blah. It just never came. Like it, and then I kind of just realized like, oh, this is the game. Like surviving is the game, and I'm hoping there's not a lot of that in this, because that's kind of like I think what happened to me in Fallout, where like and that has a much smaller survival aspect, but like even just enough of like not having enough resources at any given time. I was just like, ugh, I don't feel like dealing with this. So we'll see what happens. But I'm pretty stoked. I mean, my personal expectations of enjoyment are very low, just given my history with Bethesda. But I think I have an open mind, and I'm willing to like see if this is the one that really breaks the mold for me in the history of like my enjoyment with their games. So we'll see. We'll
I think
see. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, at the very least, like presentationally, I think it looks really phenomenal. Obviously, like there's certain aspects that are like classic Bethesda jank, like the facial animations are kind of crap, but like the scale of what they do is so big that it's one of those things you kind of have to compromise on. But just like the what they've done with the engine, the lighting, the quality of like the textures and stuff, like I think it's going to be very visually striking. Which that moves consoles, that gets people excited. Just for the eye candy alone. I'm going to be playing on PC, so I'm going to probably spend about 20 hours tweaking the hell out of it to try and get it.
Well, we'll have access to. Oh no, you sold your Xbox. You sold that bad boy.
Yeah, I did. I'm a trader.
Yeah. I will see. Now. I have my PC. I'm already feeling my 30. I just got my 3070 like 5 months ago. My 3070 Ti, and I feel like it's already kind of chugging a little bit. I might have to look into a new card in the near future ish.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing.
But the 40 series, I feel like is having a bunch of trouble. I feel like every time I hear about GPU issues, it's always the 40 series.
It's a weird time right now. Like there's a lot of models out there, and like each one kind of has its own weird issues and compromises. So you kind of have to like do your homework a lot. Which sucks for most people.
Something that I would actually love. Maybe we can talk about it next week. Is but so Starfield is going to run at 30 FPS locked on consoles, at least at the start. It kind of sounds like it's just going to be that way to me, if I'm being honest.
That would be my assumption.
But and they gave a lot of reasons why, but people are going to be angry about that no matter what. And then I wasn't sure where I fell on that, because it is tough for me to not see 60 FPS as a option. But I think like I saw some of the Digital Foundry guys and some other people on Twitter were really pointing out that like having the expectation of having a 2023 game running at 60 FPS on 2019 hardware, like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, is kind of it's not a fair ask for the most part. And I kind of agree with that, honestly. Like, and like I just said, my 3070 Ti's are, I feel like I have a 3070 Ti and a Ryzen 9, and I feel like I'm getting some chug already on like Diablo. And some of that is in like streaming scenarios, right? Where like I'm trying to do 60 FPS or 120 while streaming.
Some of it's optimization too, because games are not making good use of like VRAM and GPUs and things like that. It is interesting because like this was such an extended cross-gen period where games are still coming out on the PS4 and Xbox One. And obviously when you're making a game that has to run on that old hardware, there is literally a cap on like, how much you can do, how far you can go. So then when you've built something for that, and now then it's like, oh, now we do a PS5 version. Suddenly there's, the ceiling is lifted up. So you can kind of like, you have that headroom to increase the frame rate, that kind of thing. Whereas with something like this being built exclusively for these current platforms, like now they're obviously going to try and use every single bit of horsepower that they can on the visuals, on the aesthetic, on all that kind of like the AI, the computational systems. And it's like, I'm not saying that I'm happy about 30 FPS becoming the standard again for these things. Like that's why I play on PC. I like having the option. But I understand 100%. It's one of those things where like there were some statistics a while back where like they had done, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Sony or someone, like some internal statistics where like when a game has a graphics mode and a performance mode, like the average gamer leaves it on like the graphics mode, or will actually swap it to the graphics mode and play at 30 FPS because they just want it to look better.
That's interesting. I would love to actually, maybe we could pull that together and talk about it next week, because part of me wonders too, like I think graphics mode is usually the default. So I would love to see change it. I think a lot of people just use the default option. So I'd love to see how much of it is that. Like Internet Explorer like is still like the number one browser because of like all the computers released from the 90s. Like and I'm sure there's a big correlation of those people who are also have Fox News on in the background, right? Like we're primarily talking about like the boomification of technology, but like but I think that's just human nature that people use the default. People just use the default option. So, because funny enough, like I think the people who, the communities we consider like gamers probably make up like the minority of people who are playing games.
People who, are hardcore enough to like really understand, the consoles, the systems, the industry, like what goes into the technical, your average person couldn't even like name a game engine, let alone, the games that are running on it, that kind of thing. That's no knock against people. It's like, your average person who goes to see a movie doesn't know, like every director or writer or whatnot who's involved in it. It's like they just go and see a movie. People just go and play a game.
100%. All right. I have to jump soon. So let's do a speed round here of some Nintendo stuff, because luckily enough we had the Nintendo fun. Direct. So the biggest announcement today is that Mario is now an elephant.
I actually screamed when
Elephant Mario from Super Mario Bros. Wonder has the internet screaming. This is more important than the actual game announcement itself. Trust me.
They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing.
But we'll do a rundown of the whole direct. But one of the biggest highlights of the direct was the new 2D Super Mario Brothers called Super Mario Brothers Wonder. It looks really interesting. It looks cool.
Actually, I'm really, really pleasantly surprised by that, because like, everybody loves 2D Mario, like it's always fun, but I feel like they've played it out so much at this point that just the fact that it's got like, I don't know, like a really fresh art style, there's some dialogue actually, like there's these little characters that seem to be talking to you in the background, like looks really cool. New power-ups, like the elephant thing. It's
and like the Wonder mode, like where it just looks like Mario and the gang It's like an Always Sunny episode. The gang takes acid. Yeah, the Mario and the gang takes acid. Like it literally looks, it looks really interesting. And the logo is like a cotton candy kind of thing. It looks.
Yeah.
I'm curious. My only thing is, I wonder if it could just be an art style thing, but it just didn't look like it played as fluidly, I want to say, as like past 2D Mario games.
Yeah, I wonder.
But we'll see.
They've always prioritized, speaking of frame rate, like Nintendo always prioritizes 60 FPS with like those Mario platformers and stuff, which I assume they would do here too, but you never know. Maybe they want to push things in another direction with it, and it'll be like a 30 FPS platformer, which would be strange for them, but
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. But let's do a lightning round of everything that was announced at the Nintendo Direct this morning.
Mario, the people have been waiting decades for Super Mario RPG to come back since the Super Nintendo. I have been hearing about this. Never played it. I've been hearing about this game as a gamer and a Nintendo fan for literally my entire life. And ready? Hell yeah! It's like I can't believe that this is actually finally happening. This is like such a cult classic. It's such a favorite for so many people.
We're talking in our friends' Discord the night before the Direct, and I said I saw a rumor that on Twitter that there's going to be a new 2D Mario game and a Super Nintendo remake. And our friend very jokingly said, maybe Square finally got their shit together and is letting Nintendo remake Super Mario RPG. And we all were like, LOL, LOL, LOL. That'd be funny. Yeah, and we were all like, oh, I would love that. I would play that. And I put on the Direct this morning, and the second I saw Princess Peach sitting here, I was like, oh my God.
Old art style, yeah.
I literally, I had to look at it, and I was like, wait, that's RPG. I was like,
it's great, man.
They're really actually doing this?
Yeah, the art style looks really solid. Like, that's such a smart way to just bring it to the present. I can't speak to how well the game has aged, because again, I've never played it. I assume they probably will make a couple of tweaks in there and whatnot.
I mean, it's a Square Enix game from the 90s, so yeah, I gotta imagine it's gonna feel like, hopefully at the worst, it'll feel like a Final Fantasy game in the 90s.
Yeah, it really is it's a fascinating game historically, because it's like, again, like you said, Square Enix was like firing on all cylinders back then with the original, pixel-based Final Fantasy games.
Yep.
And then there was this bizarre crossover where they make a Mario RPG in the style of, Chrono Trigger, like Final Fantasy. And it's just, what a historical artifact that has inspired so many people and so many other games to finally get... Not just like, it's a pixel remaster, but like, this looks really good.
It looks really, really good.
Amazing.
And there's like a lot of Geno heads out there, so it'd be cool for Geno to get a resurgence. People wanted Geno to be like one of the Smash characters.
In Smash, yeah. Someone was like, Geno fans will finally get a chance to play the game that he's in.
Huge day for annoying Geno heads out there. Happy for you guys. Wait, and like even these little eels have like a little bit of like Toriyama, what's his name? The guy who does Dragon Ball.
Akira Toriyama.
Akira Toriyama, like even that has like a little bit of like just that like 90s kind of
that 90s kind of Japanese.
I wonder if he
style.
did any like original I wonder if he had a hand in any of the original like concept art or anything. I would look that up. Yeah.
Oh, look at that cute little Mario. Oh my God, he's just a little munchkin.
It's going to be cool. I'm excited to play this. I never played Super Mario RPG. I've always wanted to. I don't even think I would have enjoyed it as a kid, so I'm glad that they're doing like a remake now and I get to jump in. Yeah. It's November, which right now is like, thank God, because I need
time to play everything else. Detective Pikachu 2, okay.
Will Arnett, I think Will Arnett is the voice of him though, which is cool.
Cool, if that's the case.
Hell yeah, dog. Metal Gear Solid 1, the remasters are coming to Nintendo Switch. That's interesting.
That's great for people who want to play it handheld, Switch gamers.
This
some hot fresh
amiibos, dude. Our
boys would come home.
Actually, like normally I'm not like super crazy on amiibos, but this Ganondorf one looks so goddamn good. Have you seen it?
No, actually, I didn't get a chance to see it.
Dude, let me see if I can.
Vast number of
The Ganondorf one looks so good. So here's Link. Who cares? There's Zelda. Zelda looks great. Zelda looks great. But look at this Ganondorf one, dude.
Oh,
that
dude,
looks
he's
so
looking
sick.
thick as hell. Looking
It's
strong.
Awesome. Dude, Adam Driver is Ganondorf. Let's go. Live action.
Beefy.
Beefy.
The widest,
new WarioWare, which I have not played WarioWare in a while.
I'm actually excited about this because I love WarioWare. It's so goofy and silly. And this making use of the Joy-Cons, doing like motion, like, you know, they had people like moving side to side when you're Mario sliding down the thing in Super Mario 64, like, you know, spinning around. Like, it's fun. I like stuff that gets people up off the couch and moving their body. I think this will be cute. I actually might get it.
It looks cool. It looks really good. A lot of it almost looks like they're doing like the 1-2 switch. Like, it's almost like they're kind of really making use of the Joy-Cons again. Has WarioWare had a Switch entry where like uses Joy-Con movement and stuff?
That is a good question. I think there was one on the Switch.
Oh my god, they literally just straight up ripped out a level of Mario 64.
I told you, I love when they do that. That's like classic WarioWare, is like bite-sized bits of like other games, weird references. Like, I love it, man. I love this franchise.
That's
So
awesome.
wacky.
I could get down with that.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and they showed a lot of Pikmin 4 today. They showed a lot of Pikmin 4. I haven't actually watched too much of it because I kind of want to keep it fresh. But it looks.
I kind of feel the same way.
It looks great. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah.
I hope, one thing I really hope, and I think this is something that Nintendo has been leaning into a little bit too much, and they go back and forth on it, is the simplicity of some of their IPs.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't make this too easy or too simple. I want a Pikmin that like is challenging and feels rewarding.
That's a good point. Like they do kind of have franchises that I think they like set. I mean, I wonder how they do it internally, like either an age range or like a difficulty range. Like Kirby games have never been particularly, challenging or deep. And I love Kirby. I think the games are charming and they're fun.
Well, apparently the end game of Kirby like always gets crazy.
Oh yeah, I heard the recent one was actually kind of nuts.
I'm in the. I need to finish it, but
yeah. But there's just, they don't push the challenge or the complexity in too far in certain ways, and like Pikmin is one of those where like,
oh my gosh, just a Game Boy.
I know, this looks so good, dude. Oh, the art style.
Game Boy SP.
Yeah, like Pikmin was very challenging when I was a kid, and I feel like it hasn't necessarily grown alongside the people who are fans of it, like us. Just in terms of, like the difficulty and the challenge and the reward, like you said. So I would love if, like, I don't know, do an accessibility kind of thing where there's just a hard mode available from the jump. That would be a blast. So that everybody can have fun with it and not be stressed. But the people who want, that kind of like tactics, RTS kind of like vibe.
It's basically like their like RTS / like survivability game. Like I want I want to like feel it. I want to feel like that challenge of
let me get a little stressed.
Let me get a little stressed. Let me get a little rage quick.
Yeah. HD versions of 1 and 2, Pikmin 1 and 2. That's really cool. I did
see that. I might pass on that. We'll see. Right now, I'm too busy right now, man. Too much Final Fantasy.
I know. That's too much Final Fantasy.
Then we got you're big on these, right? The new wait, so they're adding in new riders? Have they been adding new riders in every pack?
No, this is actually the first time they've done that. With the last update to it, they added in like space for new characters, and people were like, what's it gonna be?
Oh, cool.
So yeah, Mario Kart 8 getting
Piranha,
new courses, which
Kamek.
is awesome. Getting characters, awesome. I love Mario Kart, so they keep adding to it. I'll keep playing it.
There he is,
Petey Piranha, everybody's favorite.
Oh my god, Wiggler! No, I hate that. I hate that.
He's the worst.
And Kamek, dude. Tell ya, big for Kamek heads.
Yeah, big day for a lot of obscure Nintendo character fans.
Here's another one you were hype about.
Yeah, I love Luigi's Mansion. It's one of my favorite franchises.
I never played Dark Moon.
Yeah,
Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, originally released on Nintendo 3DS, is in development.
If I had to rank them, I would say the first one is still my favorite. I think it's really, it's so unique. 2, Dark Moon, I think is really phenomenal. It's like probably the best game, quote unquote. And then 3 was okay. So I'm excited for that. I think Dark Moon was underappreciated.
Like a bit, 3. I don't know what about 3 honestly even really let me down. It was probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe.
Yeah.
It was good. It just wasn't like it wasn't.
It looked amazing. I think to this day it's the best looking game on the Switch. But I think it was just shallow. It was kind of a shallow game in terms of gameplay and systems and whatnot. But
some other stuff in here. There's a lot to it. Yeah, Batman trilogy, Arkham trilogy is coming to Switch, which is interesting to me.
Yeah,
we'll see. I kind of wonder if that's going to be like a streamer, but we'll see. That's a fairly heavy game. But the Switch isn't that old. I guess it can run older things. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Sparks of Hope, Splatfest, Just Dance. I'm trying to think if there's anything else like big in here that really grabbed me. I think those are the big. Oh, the other thing I'm not seeing in here is they announced a Peach game.
Yeah.
Wait, why is that not in here? Actually,
they teased a Peach game.
Yeah, that was really the second I saw that, it actually they mention it here with the Luigi's Mansion. That kind of deserves its own thing. That had a whole little clip.
I think it's about time for starters because she's been around forever. Like everybody's gotten their own game at this point, except for her, and she's an underdeveloped character in a lot of ways. Not that the Mario canon is like so deep, but especially with the movie, like she was a big part of the movie. Like she was kind of the main character.
Big part of the movie, and it's funny. A lot of people, I saw a lot of stuff about, why is Princess Peach such this like badass in the movie? Like she can she's like a fighter in the movie. Like that's not Princess Peach. But like the way I look at her, it's the way they've utilized her in so many games over the last couple of years is like she's playable in certain Mario games, mostly like the 2D ones, right?
Yeah.
So she's doing her own stuff there.
Yeah.
Smash Bros. She's a popular pick.
Yeah.
All the sports games, and in all of these games that she's in, she's like kind of a badass.
Yeah.
Like they've kind of built her up as she's not really this like helpless princess. Since I don't know.
Yeah, it's
early
funny.
2000s.
It is good to put it in perspective that way because it's true. She's literally not even just she's one of 30 characters or 80 in Smash Bros. But it's she's literally been a playable character in you can play the entirety of multiple Mario platformers as Peach.
Right.
She can do everything that the other characters can.
Yeah,
and she can float, 100%. Which is always cool as hell.
She can float.
And I'm interested. Will this be?
Apparently, it looks like they're saying it appears to be a 2.5D scroller, which I'm a huge fan of. I love those.
Yeah. Something that kind of plays with perspective that way. It looks like she might be doing something with outfits and powers and stuff like that, which I think is fun. That's cute. That fits her. She's very stylistic. She's stylish. So.
Yeah,
I'm down for that. That is also one that I wonder because Yoshi games are very aged down. I feel like they tend to keep the challenge.
I was very bummed with the last Yoshi game. It was way too easy. It was beautiful, but it was so easy. Oh my god!
I wonder whatever this game turns out to be, how they'll approach that. Is the Peach series of games going to be, very accessible, very easy for people to get into, or will it appeal to everybody? I wonder.
The original Yoshi's Island was wasn't that it was a mainland. It was Super Mario World 2, which is Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, and that game's hard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The original ones were pretty tough. Yeah, and then the original, the Yoshi's Island on 64 is a cult classic. Everybody.
Yeah,
that is a game that so many people, even outside of people who grew up, who kept games in their lives growing up, they were I love Yoshi's Island.
I had that one on the N64 next to Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. That was a phenomenon, Yoshi's Island, the 64 one. But yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
These directs were great. I'm very excited.
Shockingly large amount of stuff from this Nintendo Direct. I was actually very surprised. They kind of came in hot with this one.
The only thing that Yoshi's Story was the 64. Absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was, the only thing I was bummed on is where the hell is Metroid Prime 4, dude?
I know. I don't think they're ever going to mention it again ever.
I think at this point they're just going to wait till the Switch 2 or the Switch Pro, whatever. They're starting to acknowledge it more and more. We don't have time to talk about it, but they even talk about with the Ubisoft, the Rabbids, they should have waited for that console, which maybe we'll move that to next week as well. But Like I think at this point we'll probably see something in like 6 to 8 months where they're like
for sure
coming in 6 to 8 months, and I think that'll coincide with whatever the new console launch is. I have a feeling they're just trying to make that because I don't know what else they'd have as a launch title at this point, unless they could announce a new Super Mario, like a new Mario game, like a new like Odyssey 2 or something.
Yeah, they might do an Odyssey 2 as like a launch title. Metroid Prime would obviously be able to push hardware further.
I feel like they usually they like to do like 2 launch titles, like 2 big launch titles, because it was basically Breath of the Wild and Odyssey.
And 1-2 Switch, baby.
And 1-2 Switch. And
everybody's favorite.
I wonder if it'll be Metroid Prime 4 and a new Mario game. If I had to bet, I think that's where we'll land.
I wonder, because Metroid has historically not sold well, despite being, a very beloved franchise. So I wonder if how they could spin that as being like the big launch title, or if they would need to have a Mario edition or something.
Dread did really well for them. So I think there's like kind of a little bit of a Metroid renaissance after the and the Metroid Prime remaster also was really well received.
Oh, true. Yeah. So a lot of people love that.
I think before we see Metroid Prime 4, we'll see Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters. That'll keep the Metroid renaissance going, hopefully.
Keep the fire lit.
Like I think they're very intentionally leading up to 4. I think there's a very intentional reverse breadcrumb trail leading up to Metroid Prime 4 with the release of Dread. With the release of Metroid Prime Remastered. I think we'll see the other 2, and then I think we'll see 4 with as a hopefully a launch title. But yeah, no, it's nice to see, and also when Dread came out, the sales of the original Metroids like skyrocketed on the eShop.
Interesting.
Like Fusion, Super Metroid, and
that surprised me.
They were like
they're great games, man. They're all
people
great games.
were very invested. So yeah, hopefully we'll see. I'm very excited to see what it is. I want to see if it's taking place after Dread. I can't see them really squeezing anything else in between the Metroid 1 and 2.
They do love that timeline. Period in the canon,
dude. It's we'll see, but yeah. All right. I got a jet. I'm running late, but this was dope. I'm excited for all this stuff. There's like a lot of cool stuff coming out.
So many cool things. This week we're going to be playing a lot of Final Fantasy, probably more Diablo.
I'm traveling. I'm like praying remote play works. So I'm gonna have a lot of hotel time. I'm praying the remote play works well. We'll see.
I'm going to be climbing a mountain next week. So I will not have access to. I leave on Wednesday, the 28th.
You leave on Wednesday? Oh, dang. What time are you leaving? We'll have to see if we can record next week.
Yeah, it's like a late night, or it's like a 5 or 6 flight, I think. I got to look at the details, but
okay. Well, hopefully we can squeeze one out early in the week.
I love squeezing one out, especially
dude. In the week. All right, everyone's squeezing out. Well, hopefully we're back next week.
Go home.
Otherwise, I think July and August for me at least calms down. So
me too. After this trip.
Cool. All right, everybody.
All the time. Thanks for listening.
See you next
forget to tip your servers.
Tip your developers.
Tip your developers.
And tip Bobby Kotick.
Leave a friendly tweet.
Yeah, you can find us at twitch.tv/NoBananaSuits where I stream. You can find Welsh at twitter.com/SeanWelshBrown. You can find the podcast at SRankPod on YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Follow us there. We'll definitely be posting in between the episodes. Hopeful for an episode next week. Worst case, it'll just be one more 2 week in betweener, and then we'll be back to our weekly regular once June is over. But we'll see you guys next episode. We're aiming for next week. Peace.